Hi everybody, Ben again. I'm here to do well, they call it open cup, but I'm going to use a cookie cutter, little star-shaped one. So I've done this one before. I usually do it on a square canvas, but the square canvas I have is too big for my tray, so I'm just going to do it on a rectangle. Doesn't really matter which one you do it on. I just sometimes I find the squares actually just keep it in shape slightly a bit better. When this here, you're either stretching it a little bit when you go side to side, or extra paint runs off the two short ways, like the top and the bottom. But it doesn't really matter. I like this size canvas, and for the moment they're cheap, and this is what I do most of my work on because they're actually quite good quality. Most of my paintings have turned out quite well. So I am going to do that. I had mixed everything, 3 parts Australian floetrol to 1 part paint, and I added a little bit of water to, I added water to all of them, but some I added a bit more water to than others, just because some are thicker than others. So my colours will be, I have black, which I put the bottle somewhere, I don't know. I always put the black and the white bottles away because of the bigger bottles, they get in my way. So I've just got black. I'm using melon sorbet. I'm using wattle. So they're both opaques. So I like the yellows, but when I do yellows with the black base, I tend to prefer to use the opaque because otherwise the transparent and semi-transparent come out a bit washy. They just take on some black colour, so I prefer to use opaque when I do yellow with the black base. So I got melon sorbet and wattle. I have another new colour which I haven't used before, tropical teal. So it's another limited edition, which is an opaque as well. I have found the opaques seem to work better for me when I do this this style, but I don't always just use opaques only because I've got 2 more colours, which is ultraviolet and warm blue, which this one says semi-transparent. This one doesn't say because it's an older bottle, but I'm pretty sure it's either a transparent or semi-transparent. So that is my colours. Yep, that's it. That's the 5 colours. And yeah, I mix them quite runny. Don't know how I can show you. They're relatively runny, but they're not super runny. So they're a little bit thicker than if you were doing a Dutch pour, but not as thick as if you were doing a swipe or a flip cup. So, and the consistency isn't as important. I find it does need to be a little bit runnier because it bubbles up underneath. So there is no silicone or anything in them to bring out cells. This way brings out cells automatically. I've done a few in the past and I really like them. Let me just get one down. Whoa. That is one, is it in camera? Yep, that's one I did in the past. But I used I didn't use this a square cookie cutter. I used a ring, a circle, but it was probably about that big. Maybe like an egg, one that you use to make egg shapes in the kitchen. And so that's why the center's quite large. But I quite like that one. To me, it's a bit of a, looks like a bit of a meteor crashing. But that is, I did that one a few months ago when I first started doing my pouring, and I thought it turned out quite well. I'm not going to use gloves just yet. I'm only going to chuck them on if I need to. So, first of all, we get some black. And I possibly even could have made the black slightly thinner. I'm going to tilt it a little bit, but I'm not going to tilt it over the edges. I'm just going to spread it out. Sorry if I'm taking you off camera. Sometimes when I do it this way, I do tilt it over the edges first, but this time I don't think I really need to, because I've got enough colours that it's probably going to go over the edge quite easily anyway. So just kind of cover majority of the canvas. Sorry, I've got it off screen again. So there, it's just covering majority of it. If I need to, I can always pour more around the edges as I go. So then what I do now is I put the cookie cutter in the middle. That's about it. And then I'm just going to pour a little bit of this around the edge and a little bit more inside. Just a tiny bit. Just kind of gets the paint a little bit flowing. And now you can pour these in whatever order you want. You don't have to do it in the same order. You can mix it up. It's just kind of do what you like at the moment. So, decisions. So I'm getting down on my knees so I can do this a little bit easier. So just pour some in. Then get a different colour, might go a bit darker. Pour that in. So it does depend on how heavy your cookie cutter shape is. So when you do an open cup, I use one of these plastic cups that's cut it wherever, like halfway, and you have this upside down. They're quite light, so I'm using something a little bit heavier. So as you can see, this is filling up more and no paint's coming out the side yet. When something lighter, it will start coming out the side earlier. But we will get there. And I usually go a little bit slow when I pour it in. Try not to like over. You can actually do it from different heights, and it will give you different effects. But I don't really want the paint to mix as much. I just want it to kind of layer. So, as now, this is still too heavy for the paint. If I pour more, it's just going to go over the side. So you just lift it ever so gently in little pumps. And you pour some more in. So yeah, when I do this with the cups, I actually don't have to do the pumping part because the cup's so light. And you can see colours. There's colours underneath this black, but they just haven't popped up through here yet. But you can see some are starting to. But you don't want to lift the cookie cutter out of the black paint. So that's why I poured the black in there first. So then when you lift it, it's just coming out of the bottom underneath the black still. So that's the best way to go about it. Then you just add more. And if you want, you can add black in there again. I'm not. And see, hey, now you can see the colours are starting to come through. So let's just give it another little pump. And because I've got a star-shaped cookie cutter, you will get it in this 5 pattern. So it doesn't seem to come out the points, it comes out in the dips of the cookie cutter shape. If I was to use this one here, it will come out from the inner bits, not the outer bits. So it does it the same. So if you use this one, you will get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. The star one's going to give me 5. You can use a love heart. I use these circle things, which I picked up from a hardware store. They're on special for like 20 cents for like a pack of them. And they work fine too. Anything that just has a shape that you're able to get, and you can just lift it slightly, is perfect. And that's the fun part. Try different utensils, try different shapes. I haven't used the square shaped before. I don't know, that might be quite different. For the moment, I'm just using more different shapes. The first picture I showed you earlier on, that was a circle. And then we just keep going. And you can add as little or as less of the colour that you want. So I'm just making sure I get all the drips. So when you do that, you don't want to get, when you move the cup across, don't want any drips to land on the top, because all these colours are coming up underneath the black, which is why you're getting these cell colours and cell patterns in it. So we'll give it another little pump action. I am going to stick with the same order for the moment. So this is why I prefer to use the opaques with the light colours, especially like yellows and turquoises. Most turquoise that I found have been opaque, but with the yellows, because it comes up underneath the black, you don't want it to get muddy with the transparent and the black. So I do it this way. Sorry if I'm talking too much, I'm just trying to explain how I do it as I go. So I really enjoy these, this style. And again, if your paint's a bit thicker or a bit thinner, it's actually not the end of the world. It will change the shape a little bit, but nothing that's not, it's just a little bit different. So try it with different thicknesses, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Trying different things, having fun. And if you wanted to, you could also spin. If you didn't want it to come out in absolutely 5 sides, you could slightly turn the star shape as you're pumping, and then you'll get a bit of a spirally pattern through it. I actually think I may have my paint slightly thicker than I normally do when I do this. I'm going to go a little bit of black, see if that breaks up that colour a little bit more. Yeah, I definitely think it's thicker because it's not moving as easily as it does. But it could also be because I didn't put black all the way to the edges. But I don't mind. I'm just having fun. I hope everyone's enjoying watching the videos. I'm actually enjoying making them. I get to talk to people, even if they're not talking back. Probably might have been nice if I did have a bit of green in here actually, but it does not matter. So I'm just making sure I can see a drip and I want it to drip off before I move it. Otherwise it will, knowing my luck, it will always fall off just as I move it across the canvas. So, don't have a lot of black left. What colour next? I can't remember what order I did it in. Oh well. Yeah, I think next time I actually, because I'm going to have left over all these colours I'll have leftover paint, I might thin them down a little bit again and make up another lot of black, which is thinner, and do another one. And see how that one turns out. So, I'm just going to slightly tilt this. Just remember, when you do tilt it, if you've got your star shape on there, you don't want it to move that much. And it will also block the paint from coming out of there. So we're just going to give this a slight little turn. I'm just going in a slight circle pattern. And I'm not doing it too fast. I just want to do it a little bit slow. Okay. When I torch this, those colours will get more defined cells. For the moment, they look like they're mixing a little bit, but you will definitely get more defined cells. You can torch it as you go if you want to. I don't. Well, I do sometimes. That's the thing. Sometimes I'll do it one way and sometimes I do it another way. It's just a way of giving you a slightly different look or a different effect. I think I have only done these with floetrol, not with a glue mixture. I might try it with the glue mixture and see if I get a slightly different result or not. But for the moment, the floetrol seems to work well with it. And you'll see when I torch it what I mean by, I don't know if you'd get the same effect if you didn't use floetrol. Sorry, I'm going a bit slow here. Try and speed it up slightly. So I think I'm actually going to have to tip a bit more black, which means I'm actually going to run out, which wasn't what I was hoping. because I've got some half made up, but I still have to add more water to it, and I don't know if I'm going to get the exact same consistency once I add water. So what I may do now is I'm going to put in my last couple of colours, which will end up being this one and then this one. And now I will go, if you finish it off now like that, your last colour will be that peachy colour. So you'll have a lot of that sitting on the top. So then what I do to kind of blend it in a bit is I tend to prefer to put the black on the very top again. Just got to scrape it ever so gently, so then I actually get the black going into the star shape. So I've got a pack of I brought a pack of 5 star shapes. I'm just using the second smallest, but you can use whichever size one that you choose. So I'm going to go the last bit of pumping. Now what happens here is, as you lift it up, see how I got that pattern? I got paint all over me. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to use my palette knife, and I'm just going to spiral that center a little bit. It doesn't, you don't have to. I just feel it breaks up that one big bit at the middle, because that's one of the main reasons why I don't use a huge big one, because the bigger one you get, you're going to have that solid bit in the middle. And now we just need to move it and tilt it until we've covered the edges. So I'm going to go over, I'm going to come back, I'm going to go to the edge and back. So this one doesn't look like it's going to give me as many cells as I normally get, but we'll see once we torch. I've got to get it over that edge. See, that's the difference when I do the whole canvas in black first. I don't actually have to go over the edge, because if you want, you just leave it with the black corner. Okay, I have to wipe my hands without getting paint all over the house. Oops. I didn't get any paper towels aside earlier, so I didn't think that through. So, bit of a hint, even if you don't think you're going to get paint on your hands, get a couple of paper towels ready just in case. Because if you're anything like me, doesn't matter what you plan, somehow you'll always get paint somewhere. That's why often if you do actually see my clothes, I'm often in the same clothes, but that's because they're my paint clothes. They don't have much paint on them, but if I wore something else, then I'd get heaps of paint on it. So, now I'm just getting my torch out. I'm probably going to have to get a little bit close just to make sure I've got no bubbles. Okay, so that's that. Definitely didn't get as much cell action as I normally do. It's because I'm doing a video, that's why. If I didn't do a video, it would turn out cells galore and everyone would go, oh, why didn't you do a video? So I try to do a video every time I do a painting now. And I show you the ones that are bad as well. I show my mistakes and I show my good ones, because if I'm going to make a mistake and I'm going to learn from it, I might as well show other people what mistakes I did, so then they might not make them themselves. I'm not 100% keen on that circle in the middle, so this is the part that I dread. Altering my picture. Because somehow I always do something wrong. Or I make it look worse. I'm just going to use a stir stick. And I'm just going to spiral the center. I don't know if I'm making that better or not, actually. I think next time I'm going to stick with my square canvas. I think I got slightly more what I want out of it. But this isn't bad. This is still quite alright. But it's definitely... it's probably a little bit more muddier than how I normally have it. And I'm getting a lot of green. So that would have to be from the yellow and one of the blues, possibly even the purple mixing a little bit to give me that green in there, which is probably good why I didn't pick a green. So I often don't pick greens, and green, if I'm going to use blues, yellows and greens, I'll get that much green on my painting that it will be virtually all green. And I don't know what it is. I like green in my garden, but for some reason I'm not a huge green fan on my paintings. But I'm just going to leave that as it is. I'm going to water these down and I'm going to do another painting straight away afterwards. So I will pause it and bring you in for a close. Yes, we're going again. I can see the thing going. So there we go. This is how it looks closer. With the colours. There's the centre swirl. But you can see there is cells in there. And they may actually increase more as it dries. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I think they would more if it was thinner. But there we go. So I'm just going to take a few photos now, and I'll probably take a couple more after. But yeah, it's not too bad. It's a bit more pastel-y. So we'll see how it goes when I do the next one. Alright, thanks everyone. Bye.